Hi. We are in week 2 of our 7-part series on healing and wholeness. Last week we started with your source of healing, and today we are exploring non-physical healing. You may be wondering why we decided to do this series at this time. Well, many are dealing with health challenges. And of course, we are in a worldwide pandemic. In many ways, we are in the crossroads of life and death. And this is such an important time in our personal lives and in our evolution as a species. There is no way to ignore where we are because the issues of living and dying have grabbed our attention. Change has to happen, and it is happening. In this time of evolutionary drivers with illness on the forefront, we can become motivated to take positive, life-changing action to heal ourselves and to heal the world. So let's take a look at the meaning of the words health and to heal. Both of these words come from the same root, to be made whole. So health and healing are conditions of wholeness. Yet there may be a misunderstanding about healing. Whenever we get sick, we often search for something outside of ourselves to give to or add to us, as if illness had taken away something from us. But healing is not about adding something to you, because the true essence, the true reality of you is wholeness. You were created whole and complete. So healing is actually the removing of something that is causing disharmony, which is blocking the expression of that wholeness that was you, is you, and always will be you. Healing is the return to the memory and the experience of wholeness. The divine you, the ultimate you, is whole and perfect. To paraphrase the poet, healing is when our hidden splendor is revealed. It's our spiritual work to come to acceptance of our spiritual perfection, since we have been created in the image and likeness of God. Charles Fillmore and his wife Myrtle, both co-founders of Unity, Myrtle healed herself of the life-threatening disease of tuberculosis and imminent death when she had a divine revelation. She had an aha moment. Myrtle came to an awareness of the truth of who she was as a perfect offspring of God the Creator. She said, I am a child of God, and therefore I do not inherit sickness. And as Charles Fillmore later affirmed, I am striving in all my thoughts and actions to make the image and likeness of God manifest as me. They both continued to heal many people through truth principles and prayer. Myrtle said that she always loved seeing people getting well. And yet, what became even more important was the development of that individual's consciousness as a result of the healing process. Myrtle said, we are not so much concerned with the results, but with the growth in consciousness. That growth will make the results abiding. So as spiritual beings having a human experience, we are here in this world where there is suffering and illness in order to learn to grow our consciousness through the process of healing. The title of today's lesson is, Can Death Heal? Do you think that there can be healing in dying? Here we are speaking about spiritual healing. Let us be mindful of the distinction between healing and curing. A cure means that the illness is gone. Yet, even when there is no cure, a person can heal into dying, into death. Therefore, it is often so appropriate to pray for healing, even when a person is terminal. Spiritual healings can and do occur. Some of you know that I wrote a book on this topic. It's called Accepting Death, Embracing Life, How Death Teaches Us to Live. It's available on Amazon.com. In this book, the reader comes to see that death and dying can bring forth spiritual healing. There are many examples. In this teaching memoir, I speak about the lessons that I learned witnessing the dying process of 7 of my immediate family members over 23 years. My intention is to guide others to transcend the fear of death and dying and to come to a new acceptance of life and death. In my book, I give credit to Stephen Levine, the writer of many books on death and dying, and a long-time counselor to people in the dying process. Because his books, Who Dies and Healing into Life and Death, spiritually guided me while I was caregiving my mother during her ending times. I learned so much from his writings. And I was very sad that Stephen Levine died about a month after I published my book. He had been ill, I found out, for very, very ill, bedridden for the last 2 years of his life. I had wanted to send him a copy of my book and to let him know how very much he meant to me, how much his works guided me during that difficult time. But it wasn't to be, on this physical plane anyhow. So what is spiritual healing? Whether you cure the illness or die from it, the higher goal is to create healing for your soul. And whenever this topic of healing is discussed, an inevitable question arises. What about the great spiritual teachers who became ill with some disease and then died from it? Are we saying that they failed at healing themselves? Well, first of all, no one gets out of this life alive. Dying is a natural and a normal part of life. I know that our culture has a common belief that when someone heals themselves of an illness, wow, we look at them as superheroes. But what does that mean about everyone else? Are they bad because they didn't heal? Here's a story that illustrates this point. It's a story about a great teacher, Virginia Satir, who was a clinical social worker and a family therapy pioneer. She was often called the Columbus of family therapy and was really a larger-than-life individual. She was so psychically and physically strong that she chose to work with institutionalized schizophrenic patients. And she did it by meeting them where they were, in their minds, in their own particular word language that they were using. She met them there. She went into that space with them. And then she could coax them back to reality. Virginia did groundbreaking work in that area and other areas as family therapy as well. Whenever she spoke, she drew overflowing crowds. While I was in my first semester in the Masters of Social Work program, I was privileged to attend her weekend workshop. I still remember her expansive, loving power that filled the Miami hotel ballroom with 2,000 plus people packed in, many sitting on the floor because the hotel had run out of chairs. Virginia was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer and died rather quickly from that disease in 1988 at the age of 72. Now, at the time, I remember other social workers were shocked that someone of Virginia Satir's spiritual development would die of cancer. Some questioned if she really was that evolved. A friend of mine was so distraught that she wrote a letter to Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, the death and dying expert, about her feelings. I saw the response my friend received, and Kubler-Ross consoled my friend, saying, "There really is no need for concern. Virginia has completed her work here on earth, and no one can judge the way she died." Stephen Levine said, "You are not responsible for your illness." How about that? You are not responsible for your illness. Your responsibility is to your illness. Whatever illness we might have and how we die is another part, another area of what our free will soul is choosing to experience and to learn from, to be responsible to. Life and our choices can lead to growth in consciousness. I know that the way Virginia Satir died was ultimately enlightening to some, as her professional work was instrumental in how clinicians practice therapy. She was a great teacher in life as well as in death. That level of teaching and ultimate healing is available from the great spiritual masters as well as from all of us regular folks. There are many, many lessons in life as in dying. One of the big lessons in illness is how to be with pain, how to surrender to it. Obviously, no one likes pain. And when in pain, we may automatically try to reject it and to run away from it. Or we might get angry at it and even curse it. Trying to suppress pain can harden our heart. But there is another way to surrender to the pain, to become curious about it, to breathe into it, to move closer to it rather than trying to pull away from it, to accept it in kindness and in love. Levine asks this potent question: how do you keep your heart open in hell? Pain can truly be hell. Well, I have been experimenting with being open to my experience. Although I am blessed not to have chronic pain, there are tiny ways all of us can work with the pain that everyday life brings. Whenever I have a pain from knocking my hand against the corner of the table, as I did recently, or stubbing my toe, my instinct is to cry out. But instead, I am trying to remember a new behavior. I begin by holding that part that has been hurt. And as fast as I can, I send love to that hurt place, calming myself, soothing the hurt, and opening my heart to it. Pain gives us the opportunity to open to it, rather than hardening against it, to surrender to it, to let go of resistance. And as Levine said, bring mercy into that illness. See the illness as if it is your only child. Isn't that amazing? See the illness as if it is your only child. Treat yourself with softness and kindness as you would your own precious child. And for everyone, we may not have chronic pain, but we may be experiencing other uncomfortable or difficult emotions in these days of isolation. How many of you are bored? Now, if we were in physical space together, I would ask you to raise your hand and we could tell about how many are bored. Well, if you are bored, are you willing to embrace that feeling, hold it with kindness, and get curious and explore what it is going on in you that is fueling your feeling of boredom? You know, when my mother was in her long illness, she told me that she was very bored. Why was that? Can you find compassion for that part of you? And what about feelings of helplessness? These days, some people feel stuck or even trapped. Certainly, helplessness can also be a feeling in illness and in dying. Are you willing to explore that feeling of helplessness now? You may know that if you do have these difficult feelings of boredom and helplessness and other uncomfortable feelings of anger and fear, loneliness, and others, not everyone has the same feelings. Our feelings are an individualized adjustment to what is happening. They are personally yours. And in witnessing a loved one dying, we can experience spiritual healing as well. During my caregiving of several in my family, I received a healing from fear of death and of fear of losing a beloved one. In the process, through my spiritual healing, I came to know who I am, that I am stronger than death, that there is an indomitable spirit in and as each one of us. That spirit can and does survive the great pain of losing a beloved one and going through the grief that follows. As Andrea Levine said after the death of her beloved Stephen, who was her husband for 40 years, father of their children, and lifelong partner in their work with death and dying. He was the love of her life. Andrea said, "It is important to honor the depth of grief. Let our hearts be torn open for the healing beneath it." That's very key, for the healing that is beneath the grief. Our suffering can be found in the pain of illness as well as the anguish of grief. If we pay attention to it, try not to push it away, we can discover how suffering can become a blessing. It might teach us compassion, trust, love, and even joy, and how ultimately through death we can learn to treasure life. And in that, spiritual healing of our soul. You know, lately, I often think about when we will be able to travel again. Won't we all cherish it? To Don and me, traveling to other cultures has been a joyful part of our spiritual process. I have a dream that someday Don and I will travel to Japan and see the cherry blossoms. You may know that the cherry blossom has long been adored by people all around the globe. It is regarded as a symbol of renewal, vitality, and beauty. Thousands of people travel to see the wondrous spectacle of these white and pink flowers blooming en masse. Now, why do you think these buds are so sought after? Why not just look at some plastic or paper cherry blossoms? You know, they make them look so real nowadays. But the actual real buds only last maybe a week or less. They are so fragile. Perhaps this is why they are so precious and sought after. It's like what death does for us. Death shines a light on the brief and ephemeral nature of life. This moment, this day, will never return. It is unique and unrepeatable. And I like what H. Emile has said. Life is short, and we do not have too much time to gladden the hearts of those who journey this way with us. So be swift to love and make haste to be kind. And now we will prepare for meditation, first listening to this song that Blair has recorded for us. And then Don will guide us in meditation. Many blessings to you.
May you rejoice in the new life within you as you release the old and born. Open your heart with praise and thanksgiving. May you see God. May you feel God. May you know God. May you awaken to a world filled with beauty. Be lifted up from times of tears, aware of the grace that tenderly carries you. May you see God. May you feel God. May you know God. Was there a time in your life you might have glimpsed something unseen? Now you can believe it's real.
And so if your eyes aren't already closed, I invite you to close them now gently and to take a deep breath as we give ourselves the precious gift of releasing our daily cares and concerns, the busyness of the week, the busyness of this day. We give ourselves this gift of time, this gift of remembrance, this gift of centering, and allowing ourselves to remember who we are, what we are. And we join in this collective moment of prayer and silence. This is the unique gift of spiritual community, to be able to do this together. And I want to invite us during this time to consider some of the things that Patricia spoke about. What if we could embrace our loneliness, our fear, our pain, our anxiety, our uncertainty? What if we could consider them to be just as we would consider an only child? To not run away, to not resist, to not be frightened, but just to embrace, just to release and to let go. And I invite you now in the silence to pick some area of your life, and in this time of silence, just to practice releasing and letting go, practice embracing whatever that is as an only child. And we'll do this in the silence for a few moments. And now from this place of silence, we send forth love and light to all those who are in need of healing. We send forth prayers of love and light to those in our own life that we know, perhaps ourselves, to our country and to our planet. May all beings be free, may all beings be happy, and may all beings be at peace. And may you see the God of your understanding, and may you feel the God of your understanding, and may you know the God of your understanding. And so it is. You say amen and thank you. And when it feels comfortable, please feel free to gently and easily open your eyes. Stretch a little bit, wiggle your toes.
And if you haven't already, please take another big, deep breath and just allow yourself to be here, fully present. Thank you, Don, for that lovely meditation.